welcome to this episode of our program Daily Debate. As usual, we will be speaking about an important topic. Tonight we'll be shedding light on the outcome of the visit of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, where he was the guest of honor in celebrations of the Indian National Day. President al-Sisi has already started his visit on Tuesday to attend this Indian celebration at the invitation of the Indian Prime Minister. The President held important talks with a number of high-ranking officials, starting with the Indian Prime Minister to the Indian President, to a number of Indian officials and businessmen, and they discussed many of the bilateral relations and cooperation in different levels, with the aim of upgrading the ties to a strategic partnership. The President's invitation to those celebrations as the guest of honor has already reflected the appreciation of India to Egypt and the interest of the Indian side, definitely, and the Egyptian side, to boost cooperation between both sides. And this visit already comes in coincidence with 75 anniversary of diplomatic relations, and on to come. The outcome was very fruitful, where both sides agreed on a number of strategic cooperation at this upcoming stage on all scales and spheres. We'll be highlighting that with our distinguished guest, Engineer Hassan, Shaban, political analyst. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Before we delve into our discussion, let me first have the first report. And Egypt, India seek to upgrade ties to strategic partnership. Let's watch.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said on Wednesday that Egypt and India are seeking to upgrade ties to a strategic partnership as the two countries celebrate their 75th anniversary of establishing diplomatic ties. El-Sisi is currently on a 3-day visit to India. His statement came during a press conference with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in which the Egyptian president referred to the integrated capabilities of Egypt and India that could lead to a solid system in the face of common challenges and emerging global crises, especially in the energy and food sectors. El-Sisi, who arrived on Tuesday in New Delhi at Modi's invitation to participate as chief guest in celebrations of India's Republic Day on Thursday, received a ceremonial welcome at Rashtrapati Bhavan, the official residence of the President of India, at the western end of Rajpath in New Delhi, and was welcomed by President Draupadi Murmu and Premier Modi. The President then arrived at Hyderabad House to hold summit talks with the Indian Premier. El-Sisi thanked Modi for his invitation, hospitality and generous reception. El-Sisi thanked Modi for his invitation, hospitality and generous reception, which he said reflected the strong relations between the two countries and nations. He reiterated his congratulations to the Indian nation, government and people on Republic Day, adding that it is a great privilege to be a guest of honor and participate in the glorious National Day. El-Sisi said that the talks dwelt on the optimum ways to combat terrorism and extremist thought. President El-Sisi said that Egypt and India have a common vision in this regard, and that joint cooperation will help uproot violence which threatens the whole world, not only Egypt and India. He added that an agreement was reached on the need to promote cooperation in the security field and to increase coordination in this vital sector. Egypt and India are working on elevating their relationship to a strategic partnership. El-Sisi and Modi unveiled plans to boost cooperation in defense and security, counter-terrorism and trade, after signing 5 agreements for cooperation in IT, cybersecurity, culture, youth matters, and broadcasting. The Indian Premier added that the two sides also decided to strengthen cooperation between the defense industries of India and Egypt. President el-Sisi stated that Egypt and India agreed on fostering strategic cooperation in several domains, covering agriculture, higher education, chemicals, fertilizers, medications, and IT. The President affirmed the significance of assessing regular channels for exchanging experiences and knowledge regarding successful experiments and initiatives in the two countries, particularly in developing local industry and small and medium-sized projects and providing decent life for citizens. El-Sisi told Moody Egypt welcomes the flow of more Indian tourists to Egypt. He also pointed out that cooperation in defense domains figured high on the agenda of the talks, saying the two countries stressed maintaining coordination, joint exercises, and exchange of expertise, in addition to tapping additional horizons for cooperation. El-Sisi and Moody underscored the importance of maintaining work to raise the volume of trade exchange and to capitalize on production and exportation abilities and advantages of the two countries with a view to responding to economic and social priorities to stimulate foreign investments. The head of state revealed that Egypt and India agreed on maximizing cooperation on all fronts and forging more partnerships in new areas, including cooperation in new and renewable energy and green hydrogen production. He noted that the Egyptian-Indian relations are balanced and stable. Moody said his talks with El-Sisi focused on upgrading the strategic partnership between Cairo and New Delhi, noting that a long-term and more inclusive development plan would be designed to enhance political, defense, economic, and scientific cooperation. Moody said discussions also tackled healthcare and global supply chains, adding they also discussed how to amend food import chains and the drug industry that were most harmed by the Ukrainian crisis. Moody said they stressed the importance of increasing investment and trade exchange in these sectors, while El-Sisi said he is looking forward to increasing Indian investments in Egypt in various fields with special focus on the Suez Canal economic zone. The Indian Premier said the two sides decided to increase bilateral trade to $12 billion in the next 5 years.
Right, welcome back. And Engineer Shaban, we're ahead with our discussion, and this visit is a very momentous visit. It's very momentous occasion, and it has a kind of new era for both sides, or for the relations of both Egypt and India. How do you view that?
See, the relationship between India and Egypt started 75 years ago. Once India gained its independence, they started a diplomatic relation with Egypt. This relationship grew during the era of President Nasser, and there was significant boost in the relationship. You know, there was remarkable characters at this era, actually. President Jawaharlal Nehru and you know, President Nasser were very close friends, and actually they actually led a group of countries into the into, you know, establishing a new system politically. Anyway, though India and Egypt started developing at the same time, and they actually shared a lot of common characters in their country. I mean, the massive population in India. Also, we have a problem, relatively speaking, with the population in Egypt, but yet India managed to step up and gain a certain high rank in the economical scale internationally. I think cooperation between Egypt in this era and India will be very beneficial for both. We will be able to utilize the Indian experience and the programs that India followed up in the last couple of decades. I think utilizing the Suez Canal zone properly, this will serve the cooperation, the strategic cooperation between Egypt and India. We have a lot of industries in India that could be, mobilized to this zone, actually.
Well, let me here take this visit and start with what the president said, that he really went there to upgrade the strategic relations and upgrade it into a strategic partnership, as the president has said. Let me here take those two countries at the backdrop of world crises that are really emerging in the whole world. And we're speaking here about those two countries as southern, or as representing the southern countries, or the countries who are not really represented well in the whole
countries that used to be called the third world countries at one time.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. How far do you see both countries' ability together to represent the word of this, or this whole world, because this is a whole world.
Yes,
we're speaking here about enormous number of people, and together, how can this be beneficial?
You see, you've chosen the right words, actually. Egypt and India represent a big number of countries, and I think with the active role that India is playing right now, politically, internationally, and the same applies for Egypt in the Middle East and Africa, I think we will be able to reach out and present our case. It's the what's so called the third world case. The cooperation between Egypt and India in Africa will be very much appreciated, but with a lot of chances in Africa, attractive to India. Let me put it this way. We started to grow cotton in Egypt and India at the same time. And they had their own special type of cotton, and we had the other special type of cotton. And I think with the cooperation again between, of course, the domain was the UK, British influence was controlling both cotton crops in both countries at one time. But today, I think the cooperation between Egypt and India could benefit a lot of countries in Africa, because there is a lot of similar crops, and like cotton in Africa, and we could cooperate, upgrade our industry in weaving and spinning, for instance, in Mahalla. A lot of things could be taken care of. This is on the level of Egypt and India, but generally
This is a very important area you're speaking about, since the state already is giving high priority for the industry file, and the weaving and spinning is taking an important part of that. So indeed, on this file, we can really work together. This is not the only file, right?
No, there is a lot of files actually. We have similar phenomena in agriculture, for instance. And India is now very advanced in modernizing equipment that that helps farmers to make life a lot easier for them. And I think with the Haya Karima and all this interest that the government is paying to the to upgrade the living conditions in the Egyptian countryside, I think bringing the technology from India and localizing it in Egypt and producing equipment that will help Egyptian farmers, this would be very beneficial. I mean, there is a lot of aspects actually. I mean, there is a lot of files that could be actually opened at this particular time.
We'll speak about those files because we are speaking on different scales, the political, the military one, the economic that has several spheres, education, culture, and many aspects. Before we delve into our discussion, let me have the second report. An Indian president receives President Sisi in New Delhi, and that was yesterday. Let's watch.
India's President Draupadi Murmu received on Wednesday President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi at the Rashtrapati Bhavan Republican Palace in New Delhi. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassam Radi stated that the Indian president welcomed President al-Sisi, expressing India's appreciation for Egypt at the official and popular levels, and its pride in the extended ties that unite the two friendly countries. He added that she also praised the successful development experience that Egypt is currently witnessing under the leadership of the president in all fields and the major national projects that are being implemented, stressing her country's keenness to support Egypt's development efforts and support in all fields through the exchange of experiences and joint investment. On his side, President al-Sisi expressed appreciation for the warm Indian reception, praising the strong historical Egyptian-Indian friendship relations and the advanced level they have reached at various levels during the recent period, expressing Egypt's aspiration to deepen and strengthen them, especially on the economic and commercial levels, in addition to maximizing the volume of Indian investments in Egypt. The president affirmed that Indian investments currently have a great opportunity to be present in the Egyptian market to benefit from the modern infrastructure in Egypt and to gain access to African markets, especially in light of the free trade agreements that bring Egypt together with various regional economic blocs, stressing the state's popular welcome to cooperation with India and increasing its investments and commercial activities. Ambassador Radi added that the talks dealt with a number of regional and international issues of mutual interest, as discussions reflected the mutual understanding regarding ways to deal with all files, and the Indian president praised the pivotal role that Egypt plays in terms of consolidating stability in the Middle East, Africa, as well as support for peaceful solutions to existing crises in its regional environment. Earlier this week, India's ambassador to Cairo, Ajit Gupte, said bilateral trade has expanded rapidly by 75% in 2021-2022 to reach its highest ever level of $7.26 billion, adding that trade between the two countries continues to grow in 2022-2023. He added that around 50 Indian companies operating in Egypt provide direct employment to approximately 38,000 Egyptians, investing over $3.2 billion across the chemical, energy, automobile, retail, apparel, and agriculture sectors, among others, noting that many of these companies are planning to expand their investments by a cumulative $800 million. The Indian ambassador said that this is the first time an Egyptian president is the chief guest of India's Republic Day, which marks the day India's constitution came into effect on the 26th of January 1950, as New Delhi carefully decides on its chief guest for the Republic Day based on strategic, diplomatic, and geopolitical factors, as well as business interests. Both countries have a strong relationship dating back to the 1950s and were among the founding members of the non-aligned movement. India is also eyeing Egypt as a hub to access markets in Africa and Europe. On Wednesday, El-Sisi thanked the Indian Prime Minister for inviting Egypt to attend the G20 meeting, as Cairo intends to closely cooperate with the Indian presidency of the group on files of mutual priority, including enhancing global food security and supporting international financing institutions to better face successive crises.
Right, welcome back, and back to you, Engineer Shaban. And this is the first time that Egypt attends or be the chief guest for the Indian Republic Day.
Yeah.
And it comes also at it coincides, or the visit coincides with 75 of bilateral diplomatic relations.
Mm-hmm.
And at this occasion, both sides have already agreed to issue a statement or this declaration, bilateral declaration on the level of strategic partnership that they really want to reach, especially in the fields of politics, security, defense, economy, and energy, plus, of course, another. If we speak about each and every sphere of that, for an instance, the political relations between Egypt and India, and we've spoke about that in the past, but we're speaking here about crises. And both countries are in the midst of world crises that are occurring. So how do you view, how can both countries prepare in order to be able to sustain with what's going on worldwide?
You see, India and Egypt actually have the same political attitude actually toward superpowers. I mean, both countries enjoy good relations with the, if I may call it, you know, the two major superpowers are fighting. Russia and China on one side, and the US and NATO and Europe on the other side. So Egypt and India, they enjoy excellent relations with both sides, and they could play a very important role to diffuse this crisis. But nevertheless, for the time being, I think Egypt and India will have to take care of their own issues, because India could fill a lot of gaps for Egypt. For instance, if we in Egypt get exposed to wheat, shortage, I think we could get it from India. I have a personal experience that India could provide Egypt with its need of wheat for some time.
So we're speaking here about supply chains,
Yeah.
that they can exchange or fill in the gap for the supply chain for some of the... Yes, please continue.
Also, I think for strategic reasons and to secure passage to the Suez Canal, the area of the Gulf of Aden and the Indian Ocean is very important for Egypt, actually. And cooperation, military and naval cooperation could take place in this particular area. Also, I would like to see an investment, a big investment in this particular area, where a joint mega company for fishing in this particular area, in this Indian Ocean area. And a lot of the fishing fleet, the Egyptian fishing fleet, could actually go to this particular area with a certain arrangement. Actually, there is a new model of fishing in oceans like the Indian Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean, but there could be cooperation in this particular area, and this will create a reason for our presence in this particular area to secure passage to the Suez Canal. And I think it's going to be very profitable and will secure the food chains as we were talking about. There is a lot of chances for cooperation between Egypt and India. Also, Egypt is a good window to Africa for India. So I think the coming era will see a lot of cooperation between Egypt and India, because we get along real good, the Egypt and India. Actually, we do not really have.
Actually, as for trade, they both, or bilateral trade has reached $7.2 billion in 2021 to 2022, ongoing to 2023, and then already the investments, or the Indian investments in Egypt has reached $3 billion and more billion dollars of about 50 Indian companies here in Egypt. And but there are areas that we need to expand. For an instant, for an instant, agriculture, as you said, respectively, and all the services that are surrounding this area. India is very good at this very particular area. Plus, definitely what we were speaking about, some of the cooperation in several fields, like education, IT technology, and IT, it has several branches, yes. So how do you view the ability of both countries to cooperate in those areas at this upcoming stage? Or this is what they have agreed on, but how?
Well, I think...
Or what we need?
Well, I think from what we see today in a place like the Silicon Valley in the US, with this huge number of Indians actually working over there, because they actually received a certain type of education. And I think the coming era in Egypt, we're going to have to modernize our education system to produce the same students with the same qualifications that the Indians gained in the last 30 years, actually. India is very advanced in IT field, and I think we're going to gain a lot by cooperating with India in this particular field. We require this in Egypt very much. When you actually also look into the field of agriculture, I think India managed to produce a lot of the equipment required in this particular field, and I think we could join hands with India and utilize our factories, especially the military factories like Kader and some of these factories.
Now, before we go to the military side, let me here take the IT, because IT is okay, it's the defense systems, but also goes with the defense issue is the space and cybersecurity. And those two areas are very beneficial, are the future, are really the future. So how do you view how both countries can really work on in this very particular area? We have the experience, they also have the experience, but we need the exchange of experiences in this domain. So how do you view such
I think both countries will have to come up with a formula, actually, because this particular experience is properly controlled by companies, actually. And once you try to localize this technology in Egypt, it will be beneficial for us to be able to cope. But I don't think that this will be like a government decision. This is, I think, companies who control this particular industry, because this is the future industry, actually. So I think both sides require to come up with a formula to exchange and cooperate in this particular field, actually.
That was part of what both sides, the President and the Prime Minister, have spoken about, where they have spoken about expanding the cooperation in the field of space through the Indian experience in this domain and the satellites, plus, of course, the applications that are in this domain. And also, there are other areas, of course, of...
I would like to add one little thing, actually.
Please.
In the COVID conference, actually, the decision was taken to establish a fund raising box to finance countries that actually were hurt by environmental changes.
Indeed, this was one part of the declaration of today.
So
yes.
Actually, I think Egypt and India could play a very active role to actually communicate with the industrial, the countries that actually committed themselves in this particular conference to donate and pay and finance this box to face the damages that are taking place in countries due to climate changes. Also, I would like to add one more thing. Indeed, the dealings between Egypt and India now ranges between 7 and 8 billion US dollars, but there is a plan to bring it up to 12 billion dollars within the next 5 years. So we need to find files that could benefit both sides, actually, if we manage to reach this impressive number.
For instance, the green development, the sustainable development, because
yes,
that was part also of how they are supposed to be dealing with. Let me here take the message that came out, because I'm really running out of time, and before I go, I really need to put or to emphasize the message that came out of the President's visit to India, and how Egypt is very much keen on expanding its relations with all countries, and of growing partnership with different countries at large.
You see, India is a member in the BRICS. And I think we're going to attend the 20, the group, the group of 20 very soon. I think just being close to the events will make us able to judge things better in Egypt. We are in the middle of an international crisis right now, and I think being close to India, who is a member in the BRICS, will be able to, we will be able to judge things better, and we will be able to be close to the decision makers, international decision makers. So we will be able to protect our country if things will go wrong or escalate.
That is for the Egyptian side. If we want to say that those expansion of relations would be beneficial or win-win situation for countries that we are really trying to increase or expand our relations with. Yes, indeed, and I guess that's what we are hoping for, and unfortunately my time is out. He's just telling me that. So Engineer Hassan Shaban, political answer, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
And dear viewers, many thanks for watching. Next Sunday would be another important debate. Good night.